Hello everybody, I'm Rene Ramos, director of the Lynn and Louis Wolfson II Florida Moving Image Archives, and this is Rewind, the show that looks back on Florida's past with historic film and video. It's time for another trip back into the past, so sit back, relax, and enjoy another episode of Rewind.
Channel 7 News and Public Affairs presents the award-winning program Florida Forum, now in its 21st year, examining the issues and personalities that affect our area. Now here is your moderator, Mark Wolfson.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us. About an hour from now, the Dolphins of Miami, the Steelers of Pittsburgh go head-to-head in the AFC Championship game, a berth in the Super Bowl at stake in the contest. So we could think of no better guest to join us this morning on Florida Forum than the one and only president of the Miami Dolphins, Joe Robbie, joining us on the forum along with News Center 7's Brett Lewis and Mark Lutner. Good morning, Mr. Robbie. Congratulations on another winning season, no matter what happens in the next couple of weeks. The game underway in an hour, so what do you think?
Well, I think the Miami Dolphins are going to be ready to go and are going to be in the Super Bowl 2 weeks from today.
All right. How do you see this afternoon unfolding?
I think it's going to be an exciting game. I think that Pittsburgh has a tough defense. I don't think they can put enough points on the board to beat the Miami Dolphins because we have the most productive and exciting offense we've had in the history of this club, and maybe in the history of pro football. That doesn't mean we're the best team that ever played, but it does mean that Marino can pass to Duper and Clayton and Cephalo and to a number of others and score faster and more spectacularly than has been done by any other club.
For the fans and maybe a couple of bookmakers in the audience, what does the front office think about who the Dolphins are going to be playing in the Super Bowl?
I expect it to be San Francisco, but they've got a tough ball club in Chicago to get by. I suspect that the roughest, toughest team in the National Football League at the line of scrimmage is the Chicago Bears. I was amused a few weeks ago when Al Davis's Los Angeles Raiders complained about how rough the Bears played because they've been bragging macho for years. It just tickled my funny bone to hear them complaining about the rough, tough Chicago Bears.
Yeah, interesting how that club has made that remarkable turnaround in recent years. Brett?
You're from Chicago, Mark, so I know you have no prejudice at all about the popularity of the Bears.
No.
We are in the era of parity in the National Football League. The common draft, the schedules that are tougher for the tough teams and easier for the weaker teams. How have the Dolphins managed to stay on top, to actually rebuild while winning? You've got one of the two best teams in the NFL right now, record-wise. Doing that while staying in the playoffs. How have you managed to do what other teams have not been able to do?
Well, just a minor correction. Commencing with 1970, when the merger occurred, the Miami Dolphins have the best record in the National Football League.
I meant this season.
And we established that clearly when we beat the Dallas Cowboys on the final Monday night game of the season, because Dallas is number 2. The Los Angeles Raiders are 3, no matter what they say in their black and white or silver and black propaganda. I think that the secret of what the Miami Dolphins have accomplished is that we have stuck with our draft choices. We've never traded away future strength in order to build ourselves, and so we've had the early draft choices that have been the secret of our success since we accumulated the team that was here when Coach Shula came here in 1970. Our first round draft choices through the years have been the bulwark of this club. But saying that preserving our draft choices and drafting wisely with top-notch scouting operation in the entire 19 years we've played is only part of it, because I think that Coach Shula is the most competitive and best coach in professional football, and certainly has that same kind of preeminence among all the football coaches in the history of the National Football League. He and his staff are dedicated. They are undistracted by anything during a football season. They don't even play golf on their off days. That's not permitted by Coach Shula. I think the totally undistracted dedication to duty and the ability of these coaches to teach is one of the things that keeps the team at the top constantly. We dropped off quite naturally after the 3 Super Bowls that we played in our 6th, 7th, and 8th years, but the poorest season we had was 6 and 8, and a series of misfortunes brought that about. We've had winning seasons in every season but that one since 1970. It's a disciplined operation. It's a top coaching staff. It's making the greatest use of our draft choices, and it's the fact that the front office delivers the total authority on the field operation to Coach Shula and to his staff, and gives the kind of logistical support that's necessary to win. You must have a smooth relationship between front office and field operation. The front office must be willing to obtain the players that are necessary to help, and when you have that kind of arrangement, you'll find that you have a Miami, a Dallas, a Los Angeles Raiders, up until this past year a Minnesota Vikings, and a Pittsburgh Steelers operation. And it's no accident that even in the era of parity, it's generally the same teams that wind up playing each other toward the end.
How is work coming on the stadium, which you are planning to build on the Dade-Broward line?
We've been moving at the same pace as the club has and posting a 15-2 record at this point. We decided last May 10th, the awards dinner, to crank up our marketing campaign to market leases on skyboxes and club seats in the Lodge area in order to build a new stadium in North Dade, adjacent to Calder Race Course near the Broward border. Now, our plan of financing the stadium was to market these skyboxes at prices from $29,000 to $65,000 lease money per year, and to market 10,000 club seats in the Lodge level at $600 to $1,400 per year, which includes the stadium club privileges and the actual seat, which is a contour chairback seat on the Lodge level. Now, this Lodge level is unique to professional sports. It's 10,000 seats on a level that's accessible only with credentials by special escalators. And it's going to have the swingingest stadium club on the face of this earth, because these 10,000 seats are held by people who will be served food and drink at their contour seats, but all they have to do is to step out into the corridor and they're in a stadium club. The ordinary stadium club in an NFL city is just a large room encompassed by 4 walls with a bar and a restaurant, where you have to take turns maybe every 3rd or 4th game in being able to have brunch and drinks at a table before the game. In this case, we'll be able to serve all 10,000 people, because there will be clustered seating around this entire Lodge area, and the price for the bulk of those seats is going to be less than it would cost to belong to a stadium club in another NFL city. It's the best bargain in pro football.
I take it from your enthusiasm that the seats, the skyboxes, are going well.
Well, do you know what? We've sold 81 skyboxes out of 234. All of them are the most expensive ones. They're basically gone between the corners of the stadium on each side of the field. We have sold 2,659 club seats in the Lodge level as of today noon when I left the office. And this accounts for approximately $6,600,000
well, for the benefit
in annual revenue from these skyboxes and Lodge seats.
For the benefit of us bleacher bums who can't afford any better, when do you expect to open the ballpark?
Well, I expect we'll open the ballpark in 1987. And let me tell you about you bleacher bums, and it's your term and not mine. We're going to have 60,000 seats in the upper and lower deck, which are going to be sold in absolute priority to the people that hold season tickets now, and in the order that we can establish of their seniority in seating, because the people that have been subscribing to season tickets since 1966 are the people that kept us alive during our real tough struggling years. And the next seats that are sold after all of our 43,000 plus season ticket seats that are sold now have been renewed will also be to the present season ticket holders. They'll be next in line after all the other season ticket holders have had a chance to order. And I expect the season tickets in the stands to be sold out within a month or two after that renewal campaign starts for the 1987 season. Now, what social activity are they going to have in the stands compared to what those on the Loge level and in the skyboxes are going to have? Well, let me put it this way. There will be 16,000 parking spaces. You won't have to walk 12 blocks down the street and pay $12 to park in somebody's alley with a car behind you that you have to wait for when you come away from the stadium. For about $3, everybody will be able to have a parking spot right at the stadium in a lighted area if it's a night game, and they'll be able to have tailgate parties such as this area has never seen. I see the most glorious social occasion of the year being held at every one of the 10 home games of the Miami Dolphins during the course of a season.
You really do talk as if it is I must say you're a heck of a salesman. I'm ready to...
I hope you're right.
Yeah. But you talk like it's a fait accompli, an accomplished fact. I mean, you're convinced this is going to happen, absolutely.
As far as I'm concerned, it is a fait accompli.
Well,
it was a wonderful dream until the dream became reality, and it's reality now as far as I'm concerned.
Is it a lead pipe cinch? Do you have, let me ask a couple of very specific questions, if I may. Do you have the financing locked in?
The financing is all set to go. If it hadn't been for the distraction that comes from people being on vacations during Christmas, we'd have sat down and tried to put the final loan agreement together already.
Is it signed?
We actually have people competing to finance the stadium.
So it's a seller's market. Where's the financing coming from?
Financing will probably come from a consortium of banks which will guarantee the issue of $85 million in industrial revenue bonds by letters of credit, so that we will be able to obtain an interest rate like 8.5% instead of the interest rate it would otherwise cost us, which could be 12 or 14%.
8.5% on industrial revenue bonds.
That's right.
Backed by what arm of
the industrial revenue bonds are approved by the federal government in the sense that they're tax-free. In other words, the earnings...
Doesn't that usually require some local industrial board to approve them, or a county...
That is correct. And the Dade County Industrial Revenue Bond Authority has approved the allocation of $85 million of industrial revenue bonds to the Dolphin Stadium Corporation. The Board of Dade County Supervisors has approved what the Industrial Revenue Bond Authority did in this case. And the state of Florida, through Governor Graham's leadership, has allocated the $85 million allocation from the 1985 amount of industrial revenue bonds available.
All right. You've got the land. You've got an option on the land, or
That's
you?
Right.
Okay.
We have the land.
You own the land.
That's right. Of course, it would revert if we don't build the stadium.
Okay. And when do you expect the financing package to be signed?
We have a meeting early next week, which is decisive in this regard. We could have announced an agreement by now if we weren't still negotiating concerning the loan proposal, which has been given us on a commitment basis.
So
I would expect before the end of January that we will have made an announcement concerning all of the ramifications of the permanent financing, and part of it will probably become earlier than that.
All right, January we announce the details of the financing, and when do you put a shovel in the ground?
We expect to break ground come May or June.
May or June, you break ground, and we look forward to playing ball in, what's the name of the stadium? The Joe Robbie Memorial Stadium?
You said that, I didn't.
All right, I think it'd be, I don't know.
Actually, it's being built by the Dolphin Stadium Corporation, but until that stadium is built, it's premature to be talking about naming it.
All right. Well, maybe not. Brett.
Naturally, I come from the sports angle of a lot of this. With 10 games in a year, you're going to need more events to help pay for a stadium, to attract investors in a stadium. What other events might you have? And of course, in the long term, I guess the thing I would be most concerned about would be Major League Baseball.
All right.
What besides just a possibility that, yeah, if you have this, we might think about expanding down to Miami?
Let me preface our plans with regard to baseball by saying that all of our projections, which show that we can retire the debt service, based on the kind of marketing progress we have already made, are based on only 14 events. 10 of which are our own games. We projected conservatively simply because we didn't want the banks to think that we were loose upstairs in projecting 50 or 60 events. So we know that we could be successful based on those 14 events. But baseball could provide 81 dates plus postseason and preseason games and a number of other things. Rock concerts, rodeos, music concerts of every kind certainly can be put into the stadium. I think, however, the most exciting prospect is Major League Baseball. It's my opinion that when this stadium starts to rise in the air, Major League Baseball will come to Miami. I would not be at all surprised if Major League Baseball is here when the stadium opens in 1987, or at least if a baseball franchise has not been awarded to Miami. It wouldn't surprise me at all to have that happen. We will take an active part in ourselves in attempting to bring Major League Baseball here. Because of its importance to financing the stadium, we can retire debt service in half the time if we have Major League Baseball. Maybe less time proportionately than that. But also, it's enormously important to the community. And we don't have to be the only Major League sport down here. I don't mind competing with baseball, particularly if it's in our stadium.
What indications, though, do you have besides the fact that this sounds like a good idea to you, and it certainly does, but have you had any kind of feedback from the officials in Major League Baseball?
Yes, I have. I'm confident after conversations that I've had that Major League Baseball is looking at Miami as a great potential city. A civic committee went from Miami to Houston under the sponsorship actually of Dade County government, and made a presentation to the Major League Baseball owners at their winter meeting. The presentation was totally informal. It wasn't on the floor of a meeting. But they came back with the information that what excited the Major League owners the most was the fact the stadium was going up. I can tell you from experience 20 years ago, when we obtained the Miami Dolphins franchise, that there are two major factors that decide who is awarded a franchise, which city that is. One is responsible ownership, making an application, showing the financial means and the willingness to stand by a franchise while it develops, so that if they don't make money the first 4 years, they're still there developing Major League Baseball. And the second is a stadium in place. I only know of one situation in the last 20 years where anyone was ever given a franchise based on the fact they were going to build a stadium or arena. And that was the Minneapolis North Stars in the National Hockey League. And a group of wealthy people from the Lake Minnetonka area went in and promised to have a stadium up by the time the next season started, which was 9 months later. And the league said, all right, you have a franchise if you play your first game. But if you aren't ready for the first game, you don't have a franchise. Well, they finished that arena up about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and they did it with, remarkably, they built it for $5.5 million when the arena in Los Angeles had just cost $16 million, and the arena in Philadelphia about the same. But that was an unusual occurrence. Baseball owners, football owners don't buy the idea we'll build something if you put a franchise here so that we can afford to do it. They want to see the thing sitting there. In our stadium, this is the most important thing I can tell the baseball fans of this area and the business people of this community. We are building a traditional football stadium, but we are providing at an extra cost of $10 million in the original construction that the permanent center seating can be moved out by hydraulic equipment later to be installed to create the first and the third base lines and the right and the left field lines. And actually, we have had people buying their skyboxes and their club seats on the loge level in locations where they can be behind home plate or up and down the first or third base lines. The people are that interested, they're buying on that basis. I'm fully confident that we can put investors together and go into the major leagues and get one of those 6 franchises that are going to be created. And Peter Uberoth, the commissioner of baseball, has said that he's not going to try and stop anybody from moving. I guess he doesn't want to get a foul of the antitrust laws as the NFL did. And baseball is not under the antitrust laws. Oddly enough, I think what he fears is they'll get put under there if they keep anybody from moving. So there's always the chance of purchasing another franchise and moving it in here. I like the first way best simply because I'm tired of people playing musical cities in the major leagues and in the NFL.
A couple of years ago, we went around the mulberry bush quite a few times on this penny sales tax idea, in which Dade and Broward counties were supposed to get together.
That was a
and build
withered mulberry
stadium.
bush, too.
At that time, you told me that there was absolutely no way that a stadium could be built with private money. Your good friend Max Winter, the owner of the Minnesota Vikings, told me exactly the same thing up in Minneapolis. No way can private money build a stadium. It's got to be done by the public. Here we are, 2 years later, building a privately funded stadium. Couldn't you have saved us a lot of time by doing this 2 years ago?
Well, I suppose I could, but you know, this is a public facility. Since the time of the Roman Colosseum, these facilities have always been built with public money. And I must admit to you today, as I told you at that time, that I was probably more dubious than anybody in South Florida about the ability to build a stadium with private money. I knew that it cost 5 or 6% more in interest rates to float bonds to build a stadium if they're not backed by a revenue measure, by a tax backup. I knew that private people have to pay real estate taxes, and in Florida it would take a statewide referendum to exempt private people from real estate taxes on a stadium. And I'd rather get down the line of scrimmage and face the opposing team this afternoon than to go through a state referendum to get exempted from real estate taxes. So I wasn't anxious to do this. I didn't need to spend this time and encumber the assets of the Miami Dolphins for the next 20 years because these seats we're selling are Miami Dolphin revenue otherwise, in the skyboxes or on the Loge level. I wasn't anxious to do that, but they told me constantly during the period that the government was pussyfooting around and failing to put its act together to build a stadium here, that if Joe Robbie wants a stadium, let him go build it himself. Well, never take a challenge lightly. I decided I'd look. And I was told we couldn't succeed when I came here with professional football because this was a tourist area. And oddly enough, it was by the most important business people in town. And I decided I'd look, and we started to see light at the end of the tunnel as we did in the early years of the Miami Dolphins. And we found that if we could market these 10,000 Loge level club seats and these 234 skyboxes, that we could build a stadium ourselves. And we could even absorb the real estate taxes. And we found through the use of industrial revenue bonds, which are our sole obligation, government money is not involved in that at all, that we could lower our interest rate to a livable point. So we have sold enough skyboxes and club seats now to be assured of our permanent financing. And I already, commencing January 2nd, have authorized the architects to go ahead and to put together the scope documents at a substantial cost so that we can get a guaranteed price on the stadium from a construction management firm who will be required to put up a bond that they will come in within cost. And I have also authorized the architects to then get together the plans and specifications so that as quickly as they're done, we can start construction.
You have used in this program repeatedly a word that I'm not familiar with, Loge level. What is?
Well, here's what I'm talking about. This stadium's a double-deck stadium, and between the upper deck and the lower deck is the Loge level, and the Loge level will have these 10,000 contour-back, chair-back seats, with the surrounding stadium club covering the entire circumference of the stadium. And the 2 levels of skyboxes will be right above the Loge seats. So the skybox holder may invite people from the club seats, we call them, it's the Loge level, can invite them up to entertain them during the day.
All right, that paints a picture for me. Yeah. I can see that.
This is a separate deck between. Sometime you can put on one of your shows the scale model of the stadium, which will vividly illustrate this to
I'm sure we have.
your watchers.
Yeah.
Probably around something.
Anything new that you can tell us, anything new in perspective, I suppose, about doing business with City Hall in Miami?
There's never anything new at City Hall. It's always the same old story.
Yeah.
I mean, it has varying versions. They think up new antiques every now and then, but I have some hope that what the new city manager is doing is restoring some sense to local government, but I guess maybe the less I say about City Hall, the better.
The normal traditional way in the National Football League to get extra money is threaten to move your team to Phoenix. This seems to be what everyone else does. Why have you never used that club? Why have you never, with as easy as it is to move a franchise right now, everyone knows when an owner says, I may move this team, he's really serious. Can you ever see doing that?
I can never see doing that because I expect to build a stadium. I'm one of these people who would rather fight than switch. And that's why I put my efforts to building a new stadium when local government proved too inept to accomplish it. It's going to be a great source of satisfaction to me when we prove that private people know how to do things better than government does. In direct answer to your question, I think to show what has happened in Indianapolis and now in Philadelphia, you see the difference in our approach. Robert Irsay has accomplished about $20 million in benefits by moving the Baltimore Colts to Indianapolis. And Leonard Tose stood to make the same kind of money to move to Phoenix, and now has been given a moratorium on paying rent for the next 10 years, and probably ultimately will be forgiven that rent. Philadelphia is going to use tax money to build skyboxes, and he will get the entire revenue from those skyboxes, which is true in the 24 clubs around the league that have skyboxes right now. And instead of moving to Phoenix or to New York City, where we know they would build a stadium for us in either case, we'd rather build our own stay here. I think Greater Miami is going to become, not within our lifetime or somebody else's lifetime, but within the next decade, and perhaps early in the next decade, one of the outstanding international cities of the earth. I don't think the people of Miami realize the potential greatness of this area, which is going to be accomplished in spite of any or all. And I see this as one of the great developing markets of America, and one of the good ones right now. And of course, we've devoted 19 years of toil and struggle, and we've recommitted all of our resources whenever we've obtained resources to keeping this a top-notch championship football. And I'm not going to uproot my life for an easier path by moving this club when we can do something as exciting and as exhilarating as having created the Miami Dolphins by constructing a new stadium for the Dolphins and for all the people of this area.
Thank you, Mr. Robbie. Joe Robbie, president of the Miami Dolphins, joining us on Florida Forum, one of the great overachievers in South Florida. Good luck and congratulations on another winning season. Thanks as well to News Center 7's Brett Lewis and Mark Ludner. Mark Wolin reporting for News Center 7, thanking you for joining us. See you again next week right before the Super Bowl on Florida Forum.
Florida Forum is an award-winning program dealing with the current events and personalities that affect South Florida, and is produced by the Public Affairs Department of News Center 7. If you would like to comment on today's program, write to Florida Forum, Post Office Box 1118, Miami, Florida 33138. Florida Forum will return next Sunday with another guest of interest to our area.
That's about it for this edition of Rewind. Just time to remind you that Rewind features historical film and video from the Lynn and Lewis Wolfson II Florida Moving Image Archives. To see more from the Wolfson Archives collections, visit our website, wolfsonarchives.org. You can search the archives catalog and watch video online. And be sure to connect to our YouTube channel, where you will find hundreds of carefully curated clips, or link to the Wolfson Archives Facebook page to keep up with our busy calendar of historical happenings. Until next time, I'm Rene Ramos. Thanks for watching.